Hello, in step one to the trailer portion, the M1000 trailer for the M1070 tractor trailer combination or whatever. Gonna have to figure out my nomenclature according to the US DoD. But anyways, the M1000 trailer, this is used to transport the heavier combat loaded M1A2 tanks and anything below it, but this is what carries it. Here are our parts. Here's our start. Just getting into it, we start with making this box right here along with this metal pin, which if you've been following along, it's the short one that's left. There's two still in the container, the bag, I guess. And I'm gonna start by going with the bottom. This is gonna be a little tricky just because you're making a plastic box. Nothing's ever easy, but you got to start somewhere. So what I'm doing is just trying to get some glue in there, get this going, and then from there we can start building the rest. It's important to know that you have this edge meeting up with the tab on the inside. It's not supposed to sit flush on the front. There's supposed to be a little bit of a lip there. So now that that's done, put that top piece on as well, and then we'll finagle that metal piece in there because it's going to be a little bit of exactly that, finagling. And again, that gets put in right up against the, I'm going to call it a rod or a cylinder reinforcement, but it goes right up in there. And remember, all these parts I already cut out off the sprues, cleaned up, and I've got them prepped so that we're not spending a lot of time just sitting there doing that. So what I'm going to do, from my vast experience in building this, so I'm going in building kits, I'm going to watch things fall apart. No, I am going to start dry fitting this. Now, the one thing that I'm not thrilled with putting this together, which would have made it easier, is if somehow there was a positive connection, an interior little bit or something to allow these pieces to go together a little bit easier. So I'm just gonna put some glue on just to hopefully give the start of some bite. I will be going back later on to reinforce that, I guess is the word I'd use, but just that little bit from what we were doing before has helped. Kind of solidified it. You can see there's liquid cement in there. Just be careful not to put your fingers in it and make nasty marks. Now, this may want to slip forward, but what you want is this flush in the back. Sure, that's going to come to play later on. You want this flush in the back, so make sure that you are pushing these pieces forward up to this. If that makes sense. Remember, they had those two tabs on either side, and you can look in there and see the two tabs on the inside. That is the first headache. And I'm going to say that to square this up, you need to make sure that there's no gap on the bottom, at least, and probably on the top. Just get everything nice and tight up against that cylinder, make it all rock solid. At this point in time, I'm just gonna sneak in, put that rod in there, and yeah, there's a little bit of a pressure fit to it, but it went like so. So far everything's holding. Now this is where I'm going to go through and just run some cement down the bottom. And then let that just sit for a few seconds, 5-10 seconds, just hold it there. Just let it start to melt and grip, and there's still some, wiggliness. This part right here, the glue hasn't taken. So now I'm gonna do the same thing, going deeper in on the top, and it's harder to see, but I'm running the seam for that top piece. And it seems like there's been glue in there, but because I'm not sure, and getting behind here in particular is kind of tough, I'm going to glue it also from the top. Like so. This is all good. You don't want to over glue this. What I want to do now is just take the brush. I'm going to brush it over that seam just a little bit, and also if there's any excess glue or plastic, melted plastic or whatever, that's going to smooth that out a little bit, because I'm putting pressure on it. I'm not gluing the metal at all, not putting any glue in there, just letting that be as is. Checking to make sure everything's good there. It all looks good at this point, so that's rock solid. Now this is saying there's 7 between them. 7 millimeters is what they're going for the gluing. And that goes right on this face right here, and I'm having some issues keeping this to stay together, so I'm going to put that there and grab a bottle of something heavy just to sit on it. So we're going to skip dealing with those parts for now. We're going to skip this, although it's already kind of put together. It's just got to be glued on. There's no gluing in between. You want to have these piston. And at least that's what they represent. This is a piston, and it'll be going inside of this later on, but this is essentially what they're aiming for. But we're gonna let this cement kind of set. So while we're doing that, we'll move down here. Put a little glue on. Now, unless I'm wrong, there is no front or back. Part N24. Oh, no, there is a front. Okay, so this is important. Good. Glad I caught that. So you want to have this lip right here forward, and those 2 holes on the top of this to the back. Little compression fit. Now it looks like I haven't cleaned those up, but I did. They are smooth. They're just not pretty. So anyways, compression fit those together. That should be glued. And then these end pieces. And just so you know, there's going to be a little bit of a gap there. You should not be 100% perfect pressure fit. That's why they're, in real life, that's why it's bolted. This is just a brace. It's not an integral part. It's not welded on. It's nothing like that. And I will say, maybe I would have done this a little different if I was the company, but it looks like it's working. The main surface area, gluing surface area, is right underneath those bolts as it is. So I'm going to put that there. You can kind of see the situation as it is. So moving on, we've got these big arms on each side. We've got to build these first. And all that really consists of is putting part Q55, which are, they look like fluid control boxes for a hydraulic lift system with the connectors. So I'm assuming that later on we'll have to connect lines either through the instructions, because there's another nice little line right there. But anyways, That's all that is. So, and I am putting some glue right in here because I cleaned, oh, I'm sorry. So I'm putting some glue in between the mounting part right there for this part and this nice line, because I cleaned that off and it still looks like there's a line from manufacturing. And that is the one thing that's kind of odd about this plastic, so be aware of it, is it cleans up fine, but for some reason the color, it's either the color or the way that they set this up, those molding lines still stick around. They look like they're still there. So I've caught myself on several occasions going, oh, I thought I cleaned that up, and then I go to clean it up and there's nothing to clean up. It's just, you know, like right here, you can kind of see part of it right there, and I would say that feels like there's a parting line. And cleaned it up, but there's the part from the sprue gate, and there's nothing there. It looks like there is, but there isn't. Go on this here as well. You know, I'm not pulling, really, I'm shaving, but I'm not pulling anything off for the line. The line is still visibly there, but same thing with cleaning. Now I'm going to do this again. See, I'm not cleaning anything away, and that line still kind of looks there. So I'm using the glue to maybe smooth, if there might be some sort of very small remnant that I'm not feeling with the knife. Anyways, that's all just so you guys are aware that that's there. It doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be on. So I've done that. So what we're going to do is take this. It doesn't matter which one, just no cement. And when this gets squeezed together, when I glue it, this gets caught in there without cement. And keep that mobile. One of what I'd rather do, or what I found in the past that works better, is grabbing some part that's not getting glue. Go, and now this is just gently putting the glue on. I'm not trying to put on the amount that's going to hold this and totally weld this together forever. What I'm trying to do is just get enough so that when I put the parts together, they will stick rather than fall apart. And the idea behind this is to just get it started. All right. So I'll take this, I'll squeeze it. When I get it together, I will give it a good squeeze. When there might be, yeah, there we go. Give it a good squeeze. And it'll start sticking together. This is not stuck enough together by any means. This would probably not weld as well as you'd like. But then you can go in and let the capillary action run through. You can go down the seam with a little bit of glue, and then it's just a little bit, just a sniff, as I would call it. And then you go and you kind of squeeze, push it along so that it will take up, any of the extra will go in through the capillary action, just because of small holes or cracks or whatever, and get in there without causing a huge mess. Now this stuff is just starting to get together, and for some reason there's a little hair in there. There's just no winning some days, you know what I mean? So there's that. Now, remembering that the hose lines or whatever go towards the inside, so like this. Now what I'm going to do is, there I just separated it real quick. Now I put it back together. And I'm sorry if I'm not close enough, I kind of cramped here. But, so what I've got now is my built piece. And again, the hose fittings, if you will, face towards the coupler or knuckler. Now I did touch that with my finger, so again, be careful of doing that stuff. And that just I'm using the glue to spread the whole flat area out so the fingerprint will disappear. Now when this is all dry, I will probably take my sander and just lightly sand this to get rid of that seam. If this dries down quick enough, I'll show you that. So, you've seen this once, now we can do it again. And the important thing is only on these mating surfaces, be light with it. And actually, I'm gonna switch pieces. I like, when I'm doing this, to do it on the part that they have the little cavities. So if the extra glue I've got goes down into those cavities when I'm doing this. Because then you don't have to worry about it, and gives a little extra insurance, because once you squeeze these parts together, there's no glue on it or down in those holes. There just isn't gonna be. It's gonna be a feat to get capillary action down into those little wells, but I'm not worried about it either. Again, just getting enough on there to get it started. And I'm being kind of conservative about putting the glue on, just because I want to be able to squish it together and move it around. I don't want a lot of glue on the outside yet. This is a good start. And then, like I did before, run down the lines with the glue. This time I've got to be careful. And I know last time I ended up with doing this last. Doesn't really matter. If I'm not doing a video trying to show everybody what's going on, this goes a little bit quicker. So that feels nice and rock solid. Again, fittings go towards the inside. Just kind of pop that in. Now, one of the secrets to doing this is, let's say later on you still want this movable for whatever reason. You may want to pre-paint this area, like prime it black before you do it. What I would do later on, because then you can keep this moving, is I would get a small amount of graphite. You can use pencil shavings in that, or you can go to like a car store or an automotive store and buy a little bottle of graphite. So it's basically already ground out. Put a tiny bit in there, and that will keep things moving really smoothly. But that's only if you really need it moving. You do not need to do that under almost any other circumstance. So here, we're going to be putting a lot of stuff together. So let's see if this is good enough, dry enough. Oh, it looks pretty good. It's definitely not as wiggly as it once was. There's a little bit of that seam there, and that's just kind of par for the course, honestly. If you want to deal with the seam properly, because you're worried about it and where it's going to show up, and it is, you know, it's going to be between these two arms, so it's going to kind of be pointed towards the truck. You could wait, stop at this point, put some putty in there, let all this stuff let all this stuff dry up, rock solid, sand it down, make it look good. Then you add these parts and move along as it is. So for right now, I'm going to leave those off. I'm going to take the first part, R17. I'm going to put R17 on here, like so. Make sure I got a nice solid fit. I'm going to put the glue down for its companion part, like so. R16. It's important to note that these parts are not interchangeable. You have to do them the way that they are listed on the instructions if you want them to fit. As you'll notice that they're at an angle comparative to this, so this top part is shorter than this. This bottom part has a little bit of a overhang, is probably not the right word. Extension is maybe what it is compared to the other part. But the point is that you have what you need, which is the one end of the piston. Moving to the other side. Now it doesn't matter which one I do, but I'm going to do the front, if you will, first. And I will know it's working and proper because it will fit. Like so, and it's going to be right up close to both of those edges. If it wasn't, then I know I had a problem long before the glue set. But now I've got my parts. Kind of angle the other part in to get that to fit. It sits down just fine. Being careful not to put too much glue so I don't put fingerprints in places I can't fix. And while I'm doing this too, I'm also kind of checking the squareness of the original box, because there is some wiggle room side to side in that, and I don't want to offset that. Now the interesting thing to note is that I don't need to put those parts on yet to build this whole thing, so that I can, say, have that putty in there right now, because this goes together with this piston in here, like so. Oh boy, there we go. The fit is pretty tight, is what my oh boy is all about. So that goes in on that part. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. The fit is so tight on this that it's causing the parts to pull out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sanding block in this case, and just sand this down a little bit. And again, this is where having these parts pre-painted a little bit, but that paint's going to add a little bit to it, but having a little graphite to add in there if you want this movable is going to help. So now that I've done that and put these parts back in, the other way to do this is to just wait till this all glues down pretty solid. Now you run the risk of then messing up glued in pieces and having to fix that, where you stress out the plastic. So now that I've sanded that down a little bit, let's see. Yeah, that's at least in my opinion much better. But you can see the stresses that are being put on this, just like pulling it apart. And there's nothing you can do except glue your bases on really well, because otherwise the only way to make this solid is to glue that piston down. And when you glue that piston down, then they don't move no more at all. And what's kind of weird is that that's a side-to-side piston. Let's get this right, but it's a front-to-back. So this thing wants to pull sideways. This is really odd. I mean, it looks like it's the way that it's supposed to be for real, but this is unusual to say the least, because you don't have well, you do have a solid. I guess I'm wrong on that. You do have a solid thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna now glue this in so that that is solid right there. And just keep this pinched like so, because yeah, that should go, that pushes up. See, it says no cement here and no cement there. But yeah. Wow. Okay, so that's the problem with doing this. It's getting all of its strength and hold together from these other pieces on here. I'm a little frustrated. Let's get this located on this part. So I'm attaching part R28 to part M4. There are slots, they're a little tight. So be aware. I'm not worried about putting fingerprints on the bottom of this because I don't think it's going to be visible. I could be wrong on that, but right now. So yeah, there's a little frustration here. So what do you do when you glue something on that you're not supposed to? Well, you take it off. So what I'm doing is just taking it off. So at this point, we are going to have to put those parts in. And this will be, when the glue dries, I'll sand that down slightly. And I'll sand this down slightly. And then we will have all of our parts that go in the middle. These three get glued on. I don't want to do that yet because if I glue them on now and they're rock solid and they're just off a little bit, when I put the other arm on, that's not going to be great. But you need to put all these parts on and glue them down and have it all kind of just hold together where it's pressure fit between here, holding on to these, which these should be rock solid dry. They shouldn't be partially glued or, you know, just recently glued. So this will be rock solid. Putty that up, smooth that out, so it just looks right. Get this on. These will go in here and sit in here, sort of held down by this, but the gluing of that and the holding of the brace between these parts right here, like so, is what's going to hold everything together. And I don't know the reason for that yet, because I have all the parts on the instructions, but that's what we're going to go with. So we'll call this step 1A, and I'll see you next time to finish this up.